Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I grew up in Superior, Wisconsin. It's on the tip of Lake Superior. I now live in Duluth, Minnesota. We didn't have anything too interesting, but here's a few things. There's a trail, about 1.5 miles long, called the Millennium Trail. It's said that late at night a ghostly appearance of a girl will appear. There was a house on Tower Avenue that was extremely haunted. People always used to say it appeared on a television show, noting how it was haunted. Don't know if it's true. People would always see lights on in the house, silhouettes of people in a seemingly abandoned house. It was eventually demolished. Fairlawn Mansion. It's probably one of the few tourist sites Superior has. People have noted seeing a ghost that acts as a tour guide to help lost tourists. It was an orphanage for a short time. People report seeing ghosts of children playing by the swimming pool in the basement. One of my friends worked as a tour guide there. She has confirmed seeing the ghostly tour guide. The old police station. It's now renovated into several different stores. I've heard of stories that employees of a coffee shop located in the building would see police officers while closing down the store. I've heard stories people have heard from friends. I don't know the authenticity of this one.
262 checking in. Usually a skeptic, but I had one weird experience. Driving back from Pewaukee with a friend. Heading past Waukesha County Technical College and GE Electric. Buildings on the right side freeway and marsh on left. Rounding a slight corner when we see a jogger in dark clothes on the side of the road. Da fuck? Keep driving. End up back by Silver Nail, main stretch of road, not much farther up. Decide fuck it and turn around, speed back, couldn't have been 5 minutes. Fucker is gone. His only options were to run to the GE building, long road leading up, would have seen, or run into the woods. Weird shit. We like to tell people that story from time to time. Other than that, sometimes when I get off of work late I drive down TT and swear I see black blobs moving, but I choke that up to being tired.
Before I start this story off, I'll just tell you that even after what's happened, I plan on going to tech school to be a park ranger, just not in Wisconsin. Be me 2 years ago, 16. Live in the actual middle of Wisconsin. The whole state is basically one big forest. I prefer being alone or with maybe one other friend. The forests are perfect for getting away from everything. Never had any bad experiences, love the outdoors, etc. My dad buys a place in the far north in a very small town. Phillips, Wisconsin, if anyone's ever been there. Use it as a vacation home, pretty rundown place, but we decided we could fix it up. Mid-June, just out of sophomore year of high school, brother and I decided to take a trip up to the place up north. This place is at least a 4-hour drive from where I live, and when I said it was in Phillips, I meant that's the closest town. Eventually get there, the driveways are about a half-mile long dirt trail through forest. Only the second time ever going there. First time I stayed for a whole half a day then left, so I'm pretty clueless about it. Dad gives zero shits that we go alone. Get there and it's still the same shitty building. Garage is collapsing on itself, so we park outside. Pretty large open area with forest on every side of us. Dad has a boat up there. A small river runs through the land, so me and my brother go fishing and stuff. Have a generally good time for the day. When it gets dark, we light a fire and drink, typical teenage bullshit. By midnight, we're too drunk to notice anything unusual, eventually pass out inside. Let's just call my brother Fuckstick from now on. Fuckstick's outside muttering to himself. Go outside feeling like shit from the night before. See what he's looking at, deer carcass torn apart at the head of the dirt driveway. Actually a lot more common in Wisconsin than you'd think. Write it off as maybe a bear, considering my dad has pictures of bears walking around near the house. We spent maybe 5 minutes moving the deer off the driveway, probably the worst thing I've ever had to smell. After that me and Fuckstick ate some breakfast and headed into town, maybe a 10-minute drive from the shit cottage. He got us some more booze using his fake ID. Then we headed to the general store. Phillips has about 1,500 residents, so everyone knows everything that happens. Why it didn't surprise me that the store owner knew we were the people who bought the shit cottage. The whole exchange between that shop owner seemed off to me. It was just one of those gut feelings. Told us about our neighbor, some Native American who rarely left his cabin, maybe a mile from our place. Bought our shit after that and hightailed it back to the cottage. It was about noon at this point. Sat around the cottage, lazy day. I have shitty hearing, but luckily Fuckstick heard a truck pulling up outside. We both go out, wondering who the hell it could be. Truck's engine stops, the thing is covered in rust. The door opens and the first thing I see it's a pair of cowboy boots hit the ground. It's an old Native American man. Shitfuck.jpg. Hoping to God it's not the neighbor. He introduces himself as our neighbor. Just had a generally bad feeling about him. He says he decided to stop by, heard quite a bit of noise from here last night. Me and Fuckstick were pretty quiet from what I could remember, so I had no clue what he heard. Thought it could have been the bear, so I mentioned the deer we found. Bad idea. He walked over to the side of the driveway where we threw all the bits of deer. Indian dude told us the deer wasn't missing much, it was just in pieces. Said that bears usually don't just kill things like that. Started to get a bad feeling about this whole place. That's probably when me and Fuckstick should have bailed. The Indian dude told us he would stop by later on with a gift. I didn't care too much, I mean he seemed alright. Plus I've always wanted to drink with a Native American. Guy leaves, truck is overly loud. Rest of the day goes on normally. We went fishing on the river again and started up the fire when it got dark. Sitting around the fire, it was maybe 10. Me and Fuckstick are drinking up a storm again. Buzzed but not too drunk, waiting for that Indian guy to show up. See headlights coming up the driveway. Same loud truck as before. Same cowboy boots as before. Same Indian guy as before. He's holding something, looking like a small bundle of something. Walked toward me and Fuckstick, can see what he's holding clearly with the firelight. It's bones, human bones actually. Sits down next to me, smiling. Buzzing, so I'm not super fazed by this. Ask him outright about the bones, goes on about some Native American mumbo jumbo. Keyword I got from him was Wendigo. My B-movie senses tingle, almost feel like I am kicked into sobriety. He tells us to bury the bones in our yard before midnight, does not specify why though. Me and Fuckstick both know extensively about Wendigo thanks to movies and stories. He tells us not to leave either, we didn't question us at this point. He gets up, nodding to both of us. Seeing he's left the bundle there. He gets in his truck and leaves. What the fuck were we supposed to do? We took the bones and did what he said. Buried them right in front of the house and went straight inside, locking the doors. Pretty sleepless night. Me and Fuckstick just stayed up talking about what could happen, horrible ways to die, etc. I left Fuckstick alone for a moment to go to the bathroom. Came back and he was passed out. Didn't bother waking him up, but I sure as hell wasn't going to bed now. Played solitaire for a while. Around 2 in the morning. Heard something outside. Sounded like a horse galloping, but slower in pace. Didn't want to look outside, but I did anyways. See a deer running across the tree line about 10 yards away. Watched it run. It looked like it tripped or something pulled it down. There was nothing else near it though from what I could see. The deer just sat there, it looked like it was in pain but it wasn't making a sound. Hear some sort of screeching. I've gone hunting before and I've heard deer yelp before, this was definitely not that. See something crawl up on top of the deer. It's smaller than me. I couldn't get that much of a good look at it yet, but I could tell it was small, maybe 4 feet tall. Saw it doing something to the deer, couldn't make out exactly what. Remember, there's binoculars here, not sure if I really want to use them. But going against myself like I always do, I went ahead and got them. Looked through, the thing was still on the deer. The deer was long dead, its back was clawed up and the head was torn clean off. Then I got a good look at the thing. It had no hair of any kind, just this pink fleshy skin. It was just smearing the deer's flesh against its face. Could actually make out eyes now. It took a bit to get adjusted to the darkness. No mouth. It might sound stupid, but I almost felt bad for it, though if this was a Wendigo, it makes sense that it can't eat. I might sound mellow retelling this story, but at the time I was absolutely shitting myself. Decide to wake Fuckstick up, tell him what's going on. We watched it try to eat for a few hours, then the sun started to come up. I guess it doesn't enjoy sunlight too much because it fucked off. Me and Fuckstick just bolted out to our car and got the hell out of there. The whole 4-hour drive back we didn't say a word. My dad thought we were idiots after we told him. It's been 2 years and he's gone up there a lot more than I have. He's putting it up for sale this summer.
Northern Wisconsin native here. There's something wrong with this state. It is completely fucked. We have serial killers, an army of violent drunks, drug cartels, and possibly some other weird spooky shit. I've had all sorts of weird stuff happen to me, both natural and unnatural. I finally just gave up going hiking in Wisconsin because people are weird as shit and something bad always happens. It seems like the people have gotten way creepier in the last few years out on the trails too. There's a state park I used to go to all the time, but recently I always see weirdos acting strange on the trails. People in hats plus sunglasses lurking around the tree line off trail. Super fucked up looking people with pit bulls just walking through the forests near Sunset ECT. I've driven through Phillips before too. Nicollet National Forest is a beautiful place a bit west of there, but it is also extremely fucked up. I always bring a gun if I go there. Also forgot to mention we have a large community of satanic cults, pagan cults, and general weirdos who are living off the grid. Satanic cults were actually a problem when I was younger, but the police drove them out after they cracked down on it. I've found fresh ritual spots in the forest before. I found a pillar with some hot candles and dead birds once. I also saw a transparent 6-legged dog figure. We'll type story if anybody is interested.
I had a real interesting encounter with what was either a mountain lion, someone pumped full of PCP, or some Wendigo thing. Be in southern Wisconsin, staying at my parents' house for a couple days. They have the internet, I don't. Gonna play some video with friends. Long weekend, cheap alcohol, good times. Anyways, we have bizarre screeching noises at night. It sounds like a rabbit being killed combined with the sound a cat makes when you step on its tail. This has been happening since we moved there when I was like 14. It happens a lot more recently. Sometimes it screeches all night. Frequently go out to find it. Never find shit. Maybe weird tracks. But they could be from literally anything with feet. The instant I go outside it stops. Like the thing fucking evaporates, leaving no trace. So anyways, I'm playing computer games and drinking with friends. Screeching outside. Too busy to look. Gets even louder. Friends eventually fuck off because work, school. Thing is super pissed. Sounds like shit is hitting the house. Go downstairs to where we have a screen porch. Mom is in the adjoining room. Asks if I've been hearing it. No shit. Cat is on the screen porch with all his hair sticking straight out. He's pissed. He's hissing like a motherfucker. In my infinite drunken wisdom, I decide to hunt for the beast. My guns are at my house. I'm armed with a mag light, my rat killing pipe, and a pump BB gun. Now this is operating. Screeching stops the instant I go outside. As per usual, I'm sneaky breaky because no shoes. Maglight is off, because I don't want to announce my presence that hard. I got one overpressurized BB in the chamber. I'm ready for battle. I start my rounds of the property, thinking maybe it's just a loud owl. Or possibly a twink Bigfoot getting rammed. Either way, it's getting shot. Hear shuffling in a tree. It's right by an outbuilding, so I'm able to sneak up on it in the shadow of the building. Gonna fucking pop this owl with a BB, then introduce it to my rat killing pipe. Maybe leave its corpse so its friends know what happens when you mess with me. Get about 4 feet away from the lower branches. It doesn't sound like an owl. Sounds like a person mumbling to itself almost. Not words, just noises. And a wet noise. Now I have to see what this is. Turn on maglight. Now I'm not fazed by much, but this shit really fucked me up. Red-ish gray thing with disjointed limbs. Kinda stubby snout thing. Almost like there's no lips on the mouth. The next instant after I flicked on the light, it snapped its head up at a crazy angle, screeched, and launched itself into another tree. I was full of liquid courage at the time, so I gave chase while shooting BBS at it. Jumped through a couple of trees, until it lost me for a second. Then I truly no fear. In the dark, alone, no real weapons. And I'm with this fucking cunt. Time to tactically reload and overpressurize around. Thing jumps out of the tree, right over me. I dropped the BB gun because it was spooked. It runs over the garage. Only one tree on the other side of the garage. Whip around the corner as I grab my trusty rat killing pipe. It was at this point I realized I'd done goofed. I cornered an unknown, potentially violent animal after spending 8 minutes antagonizing it. Without a real weapon, I shine my maglight at it. It screeches even louder than usual. I'm close enough to this cunt to see its throat vibrate when it screeches. It's got to come down now at this point. There's no way in hell it can jump like 30 feet. So it's either gonna run, or attack. Now I'm drunk, so my brain isn't functioning properly. If that wasn't obvious by the fact that I chase animals around at night in bare feet. So I decide to do what you're supposed to do to scare mountain lions away. Only I can't quite remember it. So I pull my shirt half off of me, so that it's like inside out but still around my neck. I'm holding the sleeves, so I start screeching and spinning around. With my shirt over my head like a 6-year-old. It screeches back. I screech louder. Wind up running into the dog kennel because I can't see. Apparently that spooked Ms. Grey cunt. Hear vigorous shuffling and scampering. Rip shirt off and prepare to get in a fist fight with this thing. Completely gone. Can't find maglight, so no real way to check. Make my way back to the house in silence and darkness. We rarely hear the noise anymore. Apparently drunken autism wins the day here in Wisconsin.
Growing up in Wisconsin, I didn't realize how fucking bizarre the people are in this state. I thought the whole country was like this. After I traveled, moved around a lot, I realized that there is something seriously fucked about Wisconsinites. They are truly out of their mind. People from my hometown die or hurt themselves doing ridiculous shit constantly. Falling off cliffs, setting off bombs, smashing into a tree on a motorcycle, falling through the ice, passing out drunk outside and freezing to death. Somebody I know recently crashed a fucking plane and died. A fucking plane. The police are just as insane. They don't do shit. If you're doing some wild shit, they'll just laugh at you and keep driving. I'm going to dump some Wisconsin stories below. Hiking Rock Island. Rock Island is a wilderness island on Lake Michigan that you need to take 2 boats to get to. Island has an old lighthouse and ruins from a small civilization that used to live out there. hiking around the island with 2 girls. Walking down the trail with them. We're passing an old 1800s cemetery that you can see through the forest. I get a strange feeling. Like somebody is trying to get my attention. I look to my right straight into the thick forest. See a little girl lean out from behind a tree. She's wearing an old tattered nightgown. She is leaning out from behind the tree for maybe 2 seconds. Sinks right back into the tree. I do a double take. It's kinda hot outside and I only slept for like 5 hours the night before, so I thought maybe I was just seeing things. I don't say anything to the 2 other girls. We keep walking for another mile or so. Come to a viewing point where we're standing on top of a giant bluff looking at the lake. Kinda creeped out about what I saw, but I didn't want to weird them out in case I was just seeing things. One of the girls looks down for a second. She says,
"Man, so weird. I looked down the trail and could have sworn I saw a little girl in a nightgown walking towards us, then she just disappeared."
I say, "Holy fucking shit, I just saw the same thing earlier but didn't want to say anything." We all freak out. Decide to take a shortcut to get back and catch the next boat to another non-wilderness island. I drive back home a couple days later. Investigate what I saw on the internet. Found that Rock Island is haunted and that people have seen children playing near the 1800s cemetery. Shit bricks hard.
Taking my young cousins for a hike in the woods at Spencer Lake with my parents and my aunt about a decade ago. Being curious, I wandered off the trail many times to explore the rocks and overgrown areas. We came upon a large rock face, probably 15 to 20 feet tall flat-faced rock, so I immediately wanted to explore and check it out. Upon closer observation, there are multiple wicker wreaths, some burned, at the base of the large rock formation. An undamaged wicker wreath hangs from a nail in the face of the rock. Another smaller rock slab with a flat top sits near the large formation that my younger cousins can climb. They climb up while I climb up the back of the taller rock to see the surrounding area. From the top of the larger formation I can see something carved into the surface of the shorter slab. It's a pentagram with a ring around it. My cousin starts playing with something. It's a candle. I yell to my aunt and hurry down to get closer. My aunt makes him put the candle down and we notice there is a candle on each of the 5 points of the star and appears to be held in place with some kind of crappy mortar. Not that great of a job since my 5-year-old cousin broke it free. My aunt starts to get nervous. She is pretty religious and she was uncomfortable, and suggests we hurry down the trail. Later on in the hike my parents' car keys go missing. They drove, and we had to call my uncle to pick us up after searching the trail for an hour and a half. Was it just some LARPers playing in the woods or some actual strange shit? I probably will never truly know.
First story. I was 19 years old in the summer of 2010. Hanging out with my friend at 1 a.m. He says,
"Hey, have you ever heard of Mud Lake? It's this place nobody ever goes. Supposedly the mafia buried bodies there back in the day. We should grab some flashlights and go explore it a bit."
We drive down desolate backroads in the middle of nowhere for about 20 minutes. Pull up to the trail right off of a secluded road in the middle of the night. Start walking down a wide path with tall trees lurking over the path so they almost create a tunnel of branches. Immediately get a freaked out feeling like we are not supposed to be there. As we are walking, we begin to hear something that sounds like bottles clinking together. I say to my friend, "Do you hear that?" He just says,
Yeah, it's like bottles clanking together or something."
We keep walking but a little more hesitantly. Way down at the end of the trail a perfectly levitating cloud of fog appears. Absolutely no fog anywhere else. We just stand there shining our light on it. It starts drifting towards us. Keep standing trying to figure out what it is. Neither of us saying a word, just staring at it. It keeps coming towards us. As it gets closer, we begin to make it out. It looks like a transparent levitating dog with 6 legs, almost half spider or something. We just stand there staring at it, not believing what we are seeing. It keeps floating straight at us. We both look at each other, and without saying a single word, we turn around and sprint back to my car as fast as we can. We get into my car, start it up, and floor it in reverse. Get back on the main road, I am yelling, "Dude, what the fuck was that?" He is saying,
I don't know. A fucking levitating spider dog or some shit.
If I bring it up today, he doesn't really say much. He usually just says,
Yeah. That was weird.
and then changes the subject. Second story. Summer 2014. Traveling through Wisconsin alone. Decide to see this place called Cathedral Pines, I've heard about in Nicolet National Forest, PIC related. Spend a couple hours going off my route. Get inside the forest. Driving down winding dirt roads for about 30 minutes. Finally get there. Do a hike, pretty cool place, big fucking pine trees everywhere. As I'm getting back to my car, 2 scraggly redneck-looking guys in a pickup truck come speeding by. Slows down and they look at me for a second, then just keeps going. Thought this was really weird since we are in the middle of nowhere, but thought maybe they were surprised to see somebody else or something. I get back in my car and start leaving the same way that the guys in the pickup truck went. As I'm driving down this dirt road, I come to a big log in the middle of the road. It looks like a pine log, and there are no pine trees growing next to the road. Wonder how the guys in the pickup truck got over this giant fucking log just 1 minute ago. Realize this is probably a trap. Floor it in reverse. Spend 20 minutes zigzagging around dirt roads going fast trying to get back to town and get out of here. I get back to town fine. Sky is looking pretty black. Pull off at a gas station. Apparently tornadoes have started on the road to get back home. Have to spend the night in the forest. The only hotels in the area are completely booked. Sun has now gone down. The storm has now moved into the forest. Absolutely pouring rain, lightning everywhere. Find this desolate half-abandoned town inside the forest and pull into an empty parking lot. Just decide to sleep in my back seat there. As I'm falling asleep, bright headlights pull up behind me. I deliriously look out my back window. A gigantic semi-truck has pulled up right behind me in this empty parking lot, and they are trying to block me in. I jump up to the front seat and start my car, while looking at my rearview mirrors to see what they are doing. Cannot imagine WTF they are doing. 2 short Mexicans jump out of the semi-truck. Start fucking power walking towards my car. Since they have trapped me in, the only way to go is forward, over a curb and onto a grass lawn. I go straight over the curb, onto a grass lawn, do a U-turn on the grass, go over the curb into the parking lot again, and drive right past them. Get back on the road. It is still storming like crazy out, hard rain, lightning, and tornado watch like 30 minutes away. Fucking floor it out of there, taking random back roads so there's no way they're going to find me if they bother to come looking. Find a dirt ATV trail that goes straight into the thick forest. Start driving down it. Stop on the trail and pull over. Turn off my car and get in the back seat, decide to just sleep there. Fucking pitch black and still storming in the deep forest on an ATV trail. Sleep for about 3 hours. Get up and go hiking for a couple hours and head back home. I dunno, Wisconsin can be weird. Seems like the state breeds crazies.
I live in Wisconsin currently, so there are no real beaches, Great Lakes, closest thing, few hours away. So us college kids always go to the quarry, your average one with sand covering the rock. There is some seaweed type shit growing at the bottom. It connects to rivers and lakes somewhere. The freaky part is, the beginning when you first step in the water is a slow steady slope slowly getting deeper. About 15 from out from the shore, it suddenly turns into about an 80-degree angle. Basically, it gets incredibly deep incredibly quick. So most summers we get beers and women and go out to chill. In before summer friend. One day while swimming, with rafts/floaties, we go out to the drop-off part and who can touch the deepest. We take turns. I hate water where I can't see bottom, so I only make it maybe 15 feet down. Some of the macho-type guys make it to maybe 30 feet, only maybe 5 feet horizontal away from the 10-15 deep zone, and eventually one comes up screaming something grabbed me, something grabbed me. We all figured seaweed, or he was trying to scare the chicks. But about 10 seconds after saying that, the inflatable raft he's holding on to gets pulled down with him. He pops up quickly a few seconds later screaming and dips to the shore. It's impossible for a human to pull a floatie raft underwater, they're just too floaty. Never went back.
I start this with a bit of a backstory. Growing up, I was always a larger person. Both in height and width, I've always the big kid. Being such a size responsibility was thrust upon me always, and I never really got praise or encouragement. It was expected of me to help others, do a good job, and get work done, be it chores or schoolwork. This is how my life has been. Emotionally stunted, a social outcast and invalid. Neanderthalish, ugly, monster, etc. are some things have been referred to, which negatively affected my psyche and further expanded my paranoia and distrust of people. A virgin even up to now who had no kiss, held no hands, or anything. My friends were far and few. So I work out, study, and lurk obscure internet forums, chats, and image boards. I developed a love for X-tier shit and always loved digging into the paranormal. This is where things take a turn for me and furthered my self-loathing. The few friends I had, and myself, did some urbexing. Dug around some abandoned buildings and inched closer into the center of the Midwest looking for the obscene, obscure, and paranormal. We found very little. Some oddities here and there, but not much until we headed to Wisconsin to search for a few abandoned missile installations. We found a tunnel that was supposedly non-existent. Locals didn't know of it. It wasn't discussed in anything related to Milwaukee or the surrounding small towns. It was there. It was near the beaches. It was semi-flooded. It smelled of copper. I, for once in my life, felt a tingle of excitement and anticipation. Something that shouldn't be lived there. The others felt it. We even agreed we tasted electricity in the air. A distinct smell of ozone the further we went in, sloshing about in the waters. A door here and there with chipped paint, faded lettering. We found wires and light fixtures in various states of disrepair to follow. We found boxes that had a military feel to them but empty and rotten. Nothing of substance, yet it was exhilarating. The copper smell mixed with ozone grew stronger. Our journey was shortened as we came upon the wall. A hastily built thing made of Cream City brick and red bricks. It was piecemeal and looked to have been built of scrap bricks after the tunnel's abandonment. A few holes existed, lights were shown, nothing to be seen. Some peered, others didn't, and that's when we heard the guttural growl and the mimicry of animals and vehicles. It was a strange mix of nature and man-made noises. A bus air brakes hissing mixed with a bird's chirp. A diesel truck's rumble mixed with a dog's bark. We were afraid yet intrigued. We shone lights, made a hole bigger, called out if something existed. The thing answered. It repeated our words mixed in with its chaotic cacophony of noise. A long, bony army covered in a translucent, oily black hide snaked out in impossible angles from the hole and grasped one from our group. It kept pulling, making its hellish symphony of noises. It made one sentence, clear English, as it kept trying to pull our friend near it. Shoot the damn thing. Send it back to the hole. Then its arm bunched up on itself, making clicks and clacks, as it started to drag its purported victim. We rushed, grabbing and unsuccessfully holding the army or prying its webbed, spiny fingers away from the legs of our friend. Some of us rushed the wall. jabbed whatever objects we had into the holes, hoping something would make its mark and wound or scare the creature. A crowbar, a bat, an old flashlight. Nothing. Another arm shot out, batted at us. Some of us saw the creature's giant, jaundice-like eye. An eye that looked like a mix between a goat and a lizard. It yipped. It yapped. It sounded like an excited dog. It put its eye on each and every one of us. It grew more excited, its festival of mimicry grew louder, quicker, and drew upon more of its stolen sounds. Then it saw me. Everyone saw it look at me. Everyone saw the human-like expression of fear in its eyes. Everyone saw the sentience of the creature. Everyone saw it look at me and yelp in fear. It screamed. It cried. It made the sound of a child crying for its mother, "Mama, no." And then one last word before it loosened its grasp and galloped away, its retreat echoing. Monster. We fled. We dare not speak of the incident at hand. We parted ways and went back to our homes, yet this unearthly creature's critique has left me bothered. If that demon from hell, something released from a hole, sees me as a monster, what does society perceive me as?
OK/X/this is the scariest thing that has ever happened to me by far. When I was in high school, I was hanging out with this girl I was kind of dating. She always drove me around because she was a year older and liked to drive. She was a super crazy driver. One night we were hanging out, burning, cruising, and being bored. She told me we should go to her family's land by the Point Beach nuclear plant. This is in mid-eastern Wisconsin. We lived in Manitowoc, and this land was somewhere north of the nuclear plant in between there and Kewaunee, pretty close to Lake Michigan. It took around a half an hour to drive there. We parked and went down this path through the woods. We got to a clearing, and there was a really old foundation from an old house with a newer fold-up metal chair sitting in the middle with no rust on it. Kind of weird. There was an old cement silo next to it that was falling over and had a hole in the side. Inside the silo was a gutted dog, not very decomposed yet. Pretty creepy. Then she shined the flashlight up at the trees, and on all the trees around the foundation were dead cats hanging by their tails. I almost started crying. I was so scared. Anyways, we left and went back to Manitowoc and walked through a graveyard and did some stupid stuff. But I've never forgotten this. Whoever did that is probably a serial killer now. I told my friends, and everybody thinks I'm just trying to make a scary story or something. I was never scared of being in the woods at night, but now I hate the country and live in Milwaukee. I don't think I could ever live in the country now.
I'm 2 hours north of Green Bay up in Door County. There is a swamp called Mud Lake in Bailey's Harbor. I've been there a few times, doing late-night exploration. It's a place that nobody in Door County goes to or talks about. It's pretty much just on the map and everyone ignores it. It's very large and a lot of it is uncharted/unexplored. I was doing a late-night exploration of the place with a friend. As we were walking into the entrance, we both began hearing bottles clanking together out of nowhere. After about 10 seconds of listening to that, an illuminated six-legged figure began moving towards us. We literally could not believe what we were looking at and did not make a noise for maybe 3 seconds. Without saying a word, we both turned around and started running back to my car as fast as we could. I still think about it and wonder what it was. I've gone back twice since, but have never seen anything. I live in Chicago now, but I love Wisconsin. It is true that Wisconsin people are very fucking weird, and backwards from mainstream society in many different ways, but I love it.
There are many horrors in Wisconsin, but I don't mean the people. The further north you go, the weirder the people get, for sure, but there are things in the woods all over that aren't human or animal. When I was younger, I was forced to move just a little north of the Montello area. Our neighbors, well, I never met the girl's parents, and neither did mine. We only met her, and her friend. She would tell us that invisible dragons roamed the land, and they slept in trees at night. She was serious when she talked about them, and did so casually. There was a loud thud/boom sound that shook the house, and the next day, she had said a dragon fell out of a tree. She also claimed that there were tree spirits. They were supposed to look like maybe totem poles, with dog heads at the top, that walked around. I don't believe in the things she talked about, but I have seen actual things that I can't explain. I've had a lot of supernatural experiences in my lifetime, and they all happened in Wisconsin.
At my aunt and uncle's in rural Wisconsin late at night, I can't sleep. Go outside and have a smoke. It's October, so pretty chilly but no snow. Super quiet, newish moon, so also very dark. They live on a lot of land that is relatively uncleared, except for the house and some outbuildings. It's all trees and trails with a big boggy patch in the middle. Still not sleepy, so I start wandering their plot, take a trail into the trees. Come out to a little outcropping with the bog before me. Still very quiet, wasn't exactly spooked, but I got that sudden feel of eyes on me. Look around, but nothing but moon shadows and reeds. Something laughs at me. Couldn't tell if it was in my head or actual sounds, but it was very loud, unfriendly laughter, like a joke at my expense. Brush animals burst into a frenzy all around. Dozens of birds winged the fuck out of their squawking, and what sounded like a deer maybe crashed through the brush. Stood there like a frozen idiot while the nature around me noped the fuck out. I soon followed suit. Didn't sleep a wink that night. Uncle gets up at dawn and finds me nursing a coffee in the kitchen. Tell him what happened earlier. Try to laugh about it, but he seems unpleasantly surprised and resigned. Stares at me for a moment, takes a deep breath. Tells me to follow him. Uncle leads me to the cellar and we go down the steps. Haven't been down there in years and years. There's a door on the far wall I didn't remember ever seeing. Ask him where the fuck that goes after he opens it to stark blackness. He gives me a look as he snags a lantern from a shelf by the door, says, "Old root cellar my grandpap dug, follow me." Walk into a small square room that has a rough tunnel in the back corner, looks kinda like a mine shaft but rather short. Wood trusses every few feet, you know what I mean. Tunnel isn't very long, we walk for maybe a full minute. Come to the end of the tunnel, a rough door. It's just a slab of old wood held in place by some cinder block along the bottom. We move it out of the way and step through into the gray dawn. I look around, blinking the dark from my eyes and adjusting to the light. Realize we're just a handful of yards downwind from where I had stood last night overlooking the bog. Look at my uncle to see him studying me expectantly. "This is about where you were last night, yeah?" All I can do is nod. I hadn't told him where I'd heard the laughter. He starts telling me about how his family first settled on this land, from Norway. Strange sounds and things had always plagued the boggy area. His grandfather had done most of the building and clearing of the land, and had inexplicably died shortly after digging out the root cellar. He had apparently been obsessed with this root cellar, and had never allowed anyone but himself inside, not even to just grab a jar of pickles. After his grandpa died, my uncle and his brother finally went down to investigate the root cellar. That's when they found the tunnel. At this point he motions me to go back through the door and we walk about halfway back up the tunnel. Here at a slight bend he stops, and looking at me moves the light close to the wall. There is a hole here I hadn't noticed on our way through the first time. My uncle, visibly pale now and a slight shake to his hand, asks if I want to take a look. Something in his voice tells me I fucking shouldn't, but I can't resist. I peer over the rim of this hole. Absolutely pitch black, and the light seems to be swallowed by it in an off-putting way, like it's barely penetrating in. Oh shit balls as I hear that same laughter again, but so much louder. Nearly break my neck spinning around to look at my uncle. His eyes are wide, he heard it too, seems frozen in place. Against my very instincts I look again. Eyes, or something, dimly reflecting the lantern light back at us. Dozens of them. I stare in petrified fascination as a wet fetid air seems to leak from the hole. More growling laughter comes with this stench. Something finally breaks within us, and we absolutely book it back up the tunnel and into the cellar. What the fuck was that? I yelled at him as we catch our breath by the now firmly slammed root cellar door. Uncle shakes his head, he has no idea. Said he hadn't been in the cellar himself since that day he and his brother had first investigated and discovered that. Over the years he had tried to convince himself it had just been a youthful fancy. When I told him earlier about the laughter, it brought that crumbling down. He laughs shakily and says ignorance is bliss, but he felt he had had to take me down there. I agree as I stare at the thick door of the root cellar. He tells me how, though autopsy had ruled his grandpa's death as natural causes, his grandmother had a different story to tell. According to her, his grandfather had been found belly up in the bog with his eyes scooped out and no other visible injuries. Apparently the rest of the family at the time had reacted very poorly to this, but the grandmother had been the one to discover his corpse. At this moment I recalled my uncle's brother had committed suicide, but I didn't know anything more than that. I hesitantly asked him about this. He looked at me for a long while. Yes, he said, he was found dead of a gunshot wound in the chest. And no eyes. After this my uncle actually started to cry, so we just got blind drunk that day after he called off work and we have never spoken about that morning again. I gathered from some further drunken ramblings before I passed out that he's terrified he'll be found dead one day, with his eyes gouged out. He's still alive, and they live there still. I don't know what I'll do if he's found dead like that.
Holy shit /x//sp/ here. I have never felt so scared in my entire life. I've never felt compelled to post on /x/ before, but I figured maybe you might have some insight into WTF I just saw/experienced. I guess I will greentext. Be me. Live on north side of Milwaukee. Streetlights. Greater than 24-hour per day traffic. Major road less than 1/8 of a mile from court my house is on. Basically nothing close to Innawoods. Earlier tonight someone must have called 911 about 6 houses down from me. Police, ambulance, fire truck all show up. Do whatever standard police/EMT/fireman stuff. Leave 45 minutes or an hour later. Seems like a standard emergency response. Continue watching Netflix with GF. Normal boring weeknight. Stay up later than we should watching a couple more episodes. Alright, bedtime. Take 9-week-old puppy outside before bed. Puppy sniffs around a little bit. Pees. Very quiet outside for the neighborhood. Have this weird feeling that could be described as being watched. Not outside for more than a minute. Feeling is growing into this sense of absolute terror inside me. Have sudden urge to look back on the roof of house. Nothing up there. Look at garage roof. Nothing there. Every nerve in me is telling me to nope back inside. Look at puppy. Done peeing, doesn't look like he needs to poop. Turn around to go back inside. Look back up at roof. There is a fucking large humanoid-shaped completely black/opaque thing on the fucking roof. Bolt to the door practically dragging the puppy. Lock every door. Close every curtain. I had nothing to drink tonight. Don't do drugs. Generally consider myself a skeptic though the supernatural is fun to think about. What the fuck did I see/x/? Did someone die down the street and it was some type of grim reaper or soul of some kind? The figure was like a void or completely opaque and a normal object or person would have been frontlit from the lamppost in my yard and the streetlight about 30 feet from where I was. WTF.
A few years ago. I am at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. First semester since they added the nearby hospital of the Northwest Quad. Still mostly empty. Have a class on the 6th floor around 11 a.m. The last class that semester ended at 8:30 p.m., so it's night by the time I have to take one of the last buses home. Pack up and notice I'm missing my headphones. Retrace my steps, which costs me missing the bus. There's one more at 9:45. Last stop is the hospital, making my way to the 6th floor. Doors locked, and I had to ask a faculty member staying late to let me in. Headphones are on the table I sat at, Surprised nobody stole them. I hurry out of the room since the faculty member had to lock up behind me, so I put them in without plugging them into my phone. Right away starts playing the song that was on that played when I turned off my phone before class. The last bus actually had a good number of people on it, but phone kept acting up, like turning off apps to turn on the voice search function. Works fine without headphones in. The next day headphones work fine since I don't have class in the hospital quad. And since then I have weird headphone issues in that one location. A few weeks ago I went back to check and they still let me up there too. And I got it to play an unplugged song one more time.
The town I grew up in has a story which I guess isn't really as big as it used to be, but nevertheless, it's a legend. There's some variations, but it usually has something to do with either creatures or little people called Haunchies who were a part of a traveling circus but escaped and ended up in the town I used to live in. They created their own little community. Apparently, if someone stumbles across it, they will cut off their legs from their knees down so the person is on their level. Also, the man who owns the property is apparently their protector. The things is, where it's supposedly located, it's all private property and there's security cams everywhere. When I was in middle school, a police officer came to visit and was talking about how people were caught all the time for trespassing. I honestly think it's just a stupid legend. It's sort of like my variation. I mean, I don't believe in it, but the part of them cutting off your legs creeps me out a bit.
13 years old. Have a shitty flip phone. Talking to people via text and suddenly it goes from full battery to none in a matter of 30 seconds. Weird. JPG. I go up and grab my charger. Plug the charger in with the phone. Leave to go out to the garage to get a soda. The garage is about 20 yards away from the actual cabin. Walking barefoot on a gravel driveway. Shit. PNG. Finally get my soda and return. About 10 minutes have passed. Go over to the phone. Battery latch was missing. No battery at all. This is getting weird, man. Doc X. Go over to the rest of the family who is on the dock 200 yards away. Has anyone touched my phone? Nope, they haven't moved. Not very climactic but was scary at the time. I suspected someone took the battery while I was gone but my family was in the water the whole time, so there would have been footprints. 2 days later my battery was returned next to my phone in my luggage. No one knew my phone was in there. Suspect great-granddad of it, his way of telling me to get off my phone and enjoy myself.
Weird shit that happened to me on a coyote hunting trip with my friend in Wisconsin. My family owns the farm my dad grew up on in very rural Wisconsin, bordered on one side is government land, and on the other side is land owned by a tribe, not a res, but just owned by a tribe, don't know which tribe. Me and a buddy drive up for a weekend to do some coyote hunting. First night, go out, I've got an R, buddy has my Carcano. Farm is in a valley with a road going down the center with most of the farmland off to one side. Go to the side of the road so we can look down the whole valley and fields, sit with our backs against a wooded hill. 45 minutes into us just observing and listening, I get a weird feeling. Like something is staring daggers into the back of my head. Don't hear or smell anything though. Notice buddy is shifting uncomfortably, we've kept completely silent thus far. He looks over at me and tells me he wants to end it for the night and go back to the house. I didn't want to tip him off, I was freaked up for some reason too, so I casually agreed and we started walking down the road back to the house. Every 4 steps he turns back around and looks behind us. I start looking too, and the third time I look back I see something large on all 4s leap across the road into the fields where it disappears into the darkness. This thing was big, like horse-sized, but it moved like a dog. This is around midnight. Buddy sees it too and starts sending 6.5 hate towards it. We sprint back to the house, lock it down, and leave early the next day. Not the first weird experience I've had, and probably won't be the last. Farm is located near Pick related, by Wildcat Mountain State Park.
Win bro here. I don't have any paranormal stories, but I've got a few that are kinda spoopy. Here's one that comes to mind. Be 15 to 16. Middle of July, hanging out with friends. Nighttime rolls around and we end up going on this bike trail in the woods behind our houses. Nothing unusual for maybe 10 or so minutes. We get to a bridge over a river. There's a steep but climbable path next to it. Some dirty homeless-looking guy comes climbing up out of there in the dark of the night. Clothes kind of torn, heavy beard, long greasy hair. We're all weirded out, but we shrug it off. He starts following us, asking us questions. Getting kind of aggressive, we tear off into a sprint and lose him. 30 minutes later we were coming back down the same way. He's still there, just leaned up on the railing of the bridge smoking. He just stares us down this time, doesn't say anything. After we got farther down the path, we look back, and he's climbing back down into the forest towards the river. TLDR, got chased by a dirty homeless down a bike trail at midnight.
The Hodag is a folkloric animal of the American state of Wisconsin, referred to as a fearsome critter. Its history is focused mainly around the city of Rhinelander in northern Wisconsin, where it was said to have been discovered. In 1893, newspapers reported the discovery of a Hodag in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It had the head of a frog, the grinning face of a giant elephant, thick short legs set off by huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a long tail with spears at the end. The reports were instigated by a well-known Wisconsin timber cruiser and prankster Eugene Shepard, who rounded up a group of local people to capture the animal. The group reported that they needed to use dynamite to kill the beast. A photograph of the remains of the charred beast was released to the media. It was the fiercest, strangest, most frightening monster ever to set razor-sharp claws on the earth. It became extinct after its main food source, all-white bulldogs, became scarce in the area. Shepard claimed to have captured another Hodag in 1896, and this one was captured alive. According to Shepard's reports, he and several bear wrestlers placed chloroform on the end of a long pole, which they worked into the cave of the creature where it was overcome. He displayed this Hodag at the first Oneida County Fair. Thousands of people came to see the Hodag at the fair or at Shepard's display in a shed at his house, where he charged 10 cents for admission. Having connected wires to it, Shepard would occasionally move the creature, which would typically send the already skittish viewers fleeing the display. In addition, Shepard would often tell the curious customers that the Hodag was especially angry that day. In order to convince people that he was telling the truth, he would go into his shed, supposedly in an effort to calm the Hodag. While he was in the shed, Shepard would change into shredded clothing to make it look like he had been attacked. He would also have his 2 sons make a lot of noise behind the shed to make the attacks sound more convincing. As newspapers locally, statewide, and then nationally began picking up the story of the apparently remarkable, living creature, a small group of scientists from the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. announced they would be traveling to Rhinelander to inspect the apparent discovery. Their announcement spelled the end of Shepard's gimmick, and he was then forced to admit that the Hodag was a hoax. The Hodag became the official symbol of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It is the mascot of Rhinelander High School, and lends its name to numerous Rhinelander area businesses and organizations. The Hodag also lends its name and image to the Hodag Country Festival. The city of Rhinelander's website calls Rhinelander the home of the Hodag. A larger-than-life fiberglass sculpture of the Hodag, created by a local artist, is on display at the Rhinelander Area Chamber of Commerce, where it draws thousands of visitors each year.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.